President Trump threatened U.S. allies with a new round of tariffs overnight, ordering the Commerce Department to investigate auto imports over possible threats to national security. Secretary Wilbur Ross commented on Twitter yesterday, saying the department will conduct a thorough, fair, and transparent investigation. The threat is seen as possibly just the latest move to put pressure on the president's Nafta partners to strike a new deal. Bloomberg's Sarah McGregor, who leads our economic policy coverage, is with us now from Ottawa. So, Sarah, is that the betting? It's hard to see how autos or auto parts are a national security concern. We do know, though, that autos are front and center in this Nafta negotiation.
Yes, it's hard to imagine by any stretch how car imports could pose a national security threat. And I think right now, with some of the reaction that we've received from allies who export to the U.S., like Canada, even from car manufacturers, their biggest question right now is how is this possible? What could be the threat here? And what we've heard from Secretary Ross over the past day is that there's this idea that if the U.S.'s manufacturing base is in decline, that sort of puts the country in a pretty vulnerable position. And also that means that the country's in a bad spot economically. And if we're in the down and outs economically, then of course the U.S. will be more vulnerable. So I think this was a bit of a shock. Again, it's just the beginning of an investigation. There's been no findings yet. But if we look at Trump's tweet yesterday before this, we definitely get a hint that he thinks this will help create jobs in America.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we were already seeing the Chamber of Commerce responding, saying auto production and auto producers in America are doing great. This is not a good thing. I was curious for your view on how you define a foreign vehicle being imported, because very few cars are shipped fully made to another country. They tend to be assembled in the country where they'll be sold. So are we talking about the parts coming from foreign countries? Because there are assembly plants for all of these companies in America.
Yes, parts are included in this probe, and I think more widely, if you think about the global supply chain and an example of how integrated it is, cars always come to mind. Even in North America, a car and its components cross over the border several times before it's assembled and then sent to the dealership, and eventually someone buys it. And I think that's a really big concern right now, that this is going to upend supply chains. And why this is hanging over NAFTA talks is related to that. The Trump administration is demanding that a certain percentage of a car be made with higher wage labor, which is sort of, I guess they're trying to get more production back in the United States. And so this just adds on top of that uncertainty now about supply chains and how accessible these parts are going to be.